All right, well, thank you everyone. Once again, welcome to our first community virtual virtual meeting for the LA County Bicycle Master Plan update. And we're very excited to have you here tonight. Si nos está acompañando esta noche y le gustaría escuchar la presentación en español, por favor, seleccione el botón de interpretación que está abajo de la pantalla de Zoom y elija español. Next slide, please. So tonight's meeting is being recorded, and we will have the opportunity to share this meeting on our project webpage following our round of meetings. As you can see, all attendees' cameras are off and the microphones are muted. We do encourage you as we go through the presentation to please take a moment and use that chat function, which is also located at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and type in your questions. We will have an opportunity to answer questions following our presentation. If you also want to enable closed captioning, please also select the CC closed captioning button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. During our Q&A, which again will follow the presentation, you'll have the opportunity to either type in your question or to raise your hand as well to verbally ask a question. Next, please. Today, you will have the opportunity to hear from our project team. We have Sarah Ahmed with the Los Angeles County Public Works, and she is the project manager for this effort. My name is Maria Llanes Forgesh. I am with Arellano Associates, and we are supporting with the public outreach and engagement. And then leading the technical work, we will have tool design, Roger Pelayo, talk about what we have learned so far. Next. We have a full agenda, but the point for this meeting is to really hear from everybody here tonight. So we will take a few moments to review, share some information with you about the Bicycle Master Plan, what we've learned so far, and the most important portion of our meeting is the breakout rooms. We want to learn more about what your experience is like biking in unincorporated LA County, and we'll have a Q&A session followed by our next steps. And then that'll bring our meeting to a close. But the majority of the time we do want to spend hearing from you on what your input is. Before I turn it over to Sarah, I do want to start with one of our Zoom polls here. And we want to know, how often do you bike? And you have three options. Select, Nancy's going to run the poll. Select option 1, I don't bike much, if at all, if that is your situation. If you bike a few times a month, option 2. And if you bike every week, select option 3. And we'll take a look at the results in just a moment. This is an easy one. So Nancy, let me know when we can close.
We're at 15 of 20. So I think we can close since we have some project team members that are joining.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see what the poll says. All right, it looks like we have many of you, over 50% of you, bike every week. That's definitely good for us to hear. But we also have 31% of you who don't bike much, and 13% of you who bike a few times a month. So this is really a nice diverse group that'll give us an idea of not only you avid bikers out there, but also some of the folks who don't bike much. And we want to hear why that is and how we can make that change your vote there for as we make biking safer. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sarah.
Thanks, Maria. Hi, everyone. As Maria mentioned, my name is Sarah Ahmed. I'm with LA County Public Works, and I'm the project manager for this effort on the county side. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about what we're doing here. So what is a Bicycle Master Plan, and what are we hoping to accomplish with it? So with that, we're actually going to start with a quick video, which has started playing. So I will let you watch that.
The LA County Bike Master Plan update is happening now. The Bike Master Plan charts a course for new and improved bikeways for all LA County's unincorporated communities and along the rivers and channels that span the county. This is a big county, and its unincorporated communities are as diverse and distinct as the 1 million people who live in them. If you live, work, play,
Oops, sorry about that. Shall we try it again, Nancy?
Yes, it looks like it got cut off.
The LA County Bike Master Plan update is happening now. The Bike Master Plan charts a course for new and improved bikeways for all LA County's unincorporated communities and along the rivers and channels that span the county. This is a big county, and its unincorporated communities are as diverse and distinct as the 1 million people who live in them. If you live, work, play, or bike in unincorporated LA County, we want to hear from you. We want to learn more about what it's like to bicycle where you live. Unincorporated areas have different needs, and each one requires special consideration. We want to make streets safer for biking, encourage people to get around by bike, invest in underserved communities, and be accountable to community needs. Getting this plan right means building it with your experiences in mind. As we gather input and develop ideas, there will be many opportunities to get involved and share your feedback. With your help, we can chart a path to better biking in LA County. Head to this website to learn about upcoming events, workshops, and our online survey.
All right, so hopefully that gave you a quick overview of what we're planning to do here with the Bicycle Master Plan, but I will dive just a little bit deeper. So first of all, what is the Bicycle Master Plan? So really what it does is it establishes a vision for the future of biking in LA County. So it's possible that those of you who are bikers may already know that LA County does have a Bicycle Master Plan. It was last updated in 2012, but a lot has changed since 2012. So we're looking to, give it a much needed update and revisit. And ultimately, the final plan that we develop as part of this process will guide the development of safe and accessible bikeways throughout unincorporated LA County and along our county flood control district channels. Next slide, please. All right, so what are we going to do as part of this process? So first of all, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to revisit the 2012 plan, and we're going to look at the bikeways that were identified there and whether or not they're still feasible, or if they, if there's a possibility to upgrade them, or if we need to revisit the routes or the classification of bikeways that were identified there. We'll also be incorporating new policies, specifically regarding the sharing of our bikeway facilities with micromobility devices. So things like e-bikes and e-scooters have become more and more popular and will probably continue to do so. So we really want to be thoughtful about how our infrastructure can be shared with all types of users. We also want to focus very much on first last mile bikeway improvements to make sure that we are tapping into our full network of multimodal transportation options in LA County. And of course, along with the plan, we'll develop and prepare a programmatic environmental impact report. And with that as well, we'll develop some design guidelines to help us bring our design infrastructure and our design policies and practices into the 21st century. Next slide, please. All right, so this is a big high-level overview of the timeline. We'll go into this in a little bit more detail later on in the presentation, but just so you have an idea of where we are and when we expect to complete this process. So we are currently in the first stage of the Bicycle Master Plan, and this is where we're really looking at the current biking conditions, and this is really where we're looking to you for your input. What is it like biking out there? Do you feel comfortable where you don't feel comfortable, or where you'd like to see improvements? And again, as I mentioned, we're looking at the existing Bicycle Master Plan to try and learn more about what we can do in this next version to make it better. Ultimately, we expect the plan to be completed in early 2025, and we'll look to get board adoption of both the plan and the environmental impact report at that time. So with that, we'll go over to the project goals. All right, so these are our draft project goals. I want to emphasize that they are in their draft form. We are really looking to the community and to our project partners and our regional partners to help us shape these and refine these as we see fit to match what we really all want to see from this plan. So for starters, the vision for the plan is to make bicycling safe, convenient, and accessible for all ages and abilities in Los Angeles County. We have 4 primary goals. These are in no particular order, but first is equity. We want to make sure that we are investing in the communities that need it the most. So those that have been underserved, are pollution burdened, and maybe most dependent on active transportation options. We also are making safety a big priority and goal for this plan. And of course, we want to prioritize projects that improve the safety of our streets. Our third goal, of course, is mobility. We want to increase the number of biking and multimodal trips that are possible in LA County, and we want to make sure that that's a viable and attractive option for people to travel across the county. And lastly, we want to make sure that accountability is at the top of our list. So we want to make sure that we're being transparent, accountable, responsive to our communities and to our regional partners. So with that, I will pass it on to Roger to take us through the rest of the presentation.
Awesome, thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. I am Roger Pelayo, one of the project managers on the consultant side, and I'm super excited to be working on this important project for the county. So what have we been doing so far? Over the past few months, we have been working hard at collecting data, running analysis, refining, and preparing our results, while also collaborating internally with LA County staff. Over the course of the project, as Sarah mentioned previously, we will be finalizing our documentation and sharing out that information during the 5 phases. But today, I will be presenting some of these initial findings and we will be conducting a breakout session. But before we jump into that, I have a quick true and false question for you all. And if you could please respond true or false using the chat function. Awesome. So most, I'm seeing most have answered true. Next. So if you answered false, you're correct. So now, next slide, please. So crashes in unincorporated LA County are trending, starting to trend upwards slightly. But you know, we did a 5-year analysis where collisions actually averaged out a little bit. We have a outlier in 2020. You know, we had this thing called COVID that hit us that drove the numbers down. Everyone was staying home, so that could have been a reason why. But just one important thing to note. So the average over the years was 350 a year, so it stayed relatively flat. We still have to review the 2021 and 2022 results, so that might be skewed a bit, but you know, these are some of our preliminary findings that we've seen in our data. Next slide, please. We have another true or false question. There are more crashes per mile in disadvantaged communities, true or false? It will take a few seconds. So for folks, a disadvantaged community for this context is defined as being low income, non-white, high pollution burden communities. So I see a majority true. So if you answered true, you are correct. Next slide. So our analysis is telling us that disadvantaged communities have crash rates 5 times higher than non-disadvantaged communities. The example on the screen shows the area of Florence Firestone, where every street that has at least one bike collision is identified. I think, Nancy, if you could proceed with, I believe there you go. So for example, Compton Avenue, Florence Avenue, and Slauson Avenue are some of the roadways in the area with the highest crash density. So our analysis will, what will we do with this analysis? We'll take this information into account as we begin to build out the feature bike network. Next slide, please. So we have another true or false question. There are more than 130 multi-use path miles in unincorporated county. True or false? So we have a majority true. Give it a few seconds. Yep. So if you answer true, you are correct. Next slide. So more than half of the current infrastructure are class 1 multi-use paths. So a look back at what has been built over the years shows a steady increase, but there is work to do. We recognize that. The big part of this bicycle master plan is to understand really the challenges that the county has faced and identify what we can do to increase those numbers to accelerate infrastructure implementation. And this is where we come to you all. Next slide. So this study takes really a deeper dive into identifying those challenges and being transparent. If you recall, the initial map in the unincorporated neighborhoods are really disconnected from each other. There are many pockets that present a unique challenge when planning and designing new infrastructure. The flood control channels, when appropriate, offer a huge opportunity. However, there are multiple owners and coordination for planning, design, and construction can take a long time. And lastly, funding does not always align with community priorities. These are just a few of the challenges we heard. However, this plan will take that information and create an implementation plan that will serve as a guiding document to overcome those challenges. Next slide. So at this time, I want us to pause and we want to hear from you all through some polls. So our first poll has more of an urban context to it. Which streets would you feel comfortable riding on? Please keep in mind that you could select all that apply. We'll give it a few seconds. Nancy, let me know when we get a good number.
Sure, we're at 13 of 22.
Let's go ahead and close the poll and show the results. Awesome. So the majority of you folks feel more comfortable on buffered bike lanes. Actually, no, physical barrier, bike lanes with the physical barrier. And the next highest is buffered bike lane. So we hear you loud and clear. You know, definitely with more separation comes a sense of security for cyclists. Next slide. So our last poll has a more rural context, and we would like to hear from you. Please tell us which streets you would feel comfortable riding on, and select all that apply as well. Nancy, where are we at?
Just a few more seconds, we're almost there.
Perfect.
Okay, I think we're good. 17 of 22.
Awesome. So the majority of you folks feel more comfortable riding on a side path or a wide bikeable shoulder. That's awesome to know. So as we start preparing our network, these are some of the considerations that we're going to be looking at when we're selecting the type of treatments for the proposed network. And now I want to hand it over to Maria. Yeah, mute, Maria.
Thank you. We want to take a couple minutes here to answer any questions that any of you may have relative to the information that was just shared with the team. We will have a more robust Q&A session following our breakout groups. But before we get into the breakout groups, we wanted to make sure to take a little bit of time and see if anybody has any questions that they want to ask of the team that would be beneficial as we go into the breakout rooms. If you want to, you can type it in, or you can just raise your hand and Nancy will unmute you so that you can ask your question. So just let us know. Again, we will have another opportunity a little bit later on following our breakout session, but I just wanted to take a moment to see if anyone has any questions relative to the information that Sarah and Roger just presented. And looks like we have Stephen Neptune.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I'm actually curious if you guys have a number of how many miles of the 2012 bike program were actually built.
And I think that's Sarah, do you want to take on that question?
That's a great question. I do have that number and I will answer it during this meeting. Let me just look it up to make sure I am sharing that correctly. But I will get that for you.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone else have any other questions before we head to our breakout groups? I don't see any other hands on my end. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, please. So we want to provide a little bit of information before we head into our breakout rooms of what it is that we are hearing from people so far. We have kicked off our outreach we kicked it off in the middle of April, and we have been out in the community through community events, as well as held a couple of meetings and collected input through our public survey, which we'll go through in a little bit. And so we've collected over 200 comments, and from those 200 comments that we've collected and then the conversations we've had at these events, we know that there's excitement for bicycling, safe bicycling. We especially heard from the Florence Firestone community loud and clear about this, and also the need to raise project awareness on this important topic to make biking safer throughout LA County. We did hear that, as you heard earlier during our Zoom poll, that additional separation from cars is very important to folks. And this is great information for our technical team to go through as we prepare, as we move forward in the study. And then improving connections was also another area that we heard that's important, not only on surface streets, but to our river paths. So those are some additional additional input that we got. And then safe places, not just for avid riders, but for families and youth to ride on. Families expressed concern with wanting their kids to be on the road, and just overall the need for those safe places for families to be able to ride was another item that was expressed. Next slide. So for today, as we start getting into our breakout groups, we want you to think about some of these questions that you see on here. Where do you want to see more separation from cars? Are you having, is there an area specifically throughout unincorporated LA County that you think that this would be best? Are there any barriers and locations where maybe you can't get through? There's maybe fences that are in the way, freeway access points. We want to know about those. What are the challenging intersections? We want to know specifically where those are. And if one of the things that prevents you from riding more is the amenities, the availability of bike racks, bike storage, and other amenities, we want to know exactly where those needs are. And we want to know what routes you find safe, as well as new routes that you think would make sense for the team to consider. So these are some of the questions that, as we head into our breakout sessions, we'd like you to think about and be ready to discuss with the team. Right now, I'm going to hand it over to Sasha. She's going to go through a demonstration of our community survey that we're going to be using to get some of your input. Sasha?
Thanks, Maria. Before we jump in, I think that we had an answer to the question previously proposed, or that was previously asked. So maybe we can touch back on that before we move on.
Yes, Stephen. So the number of miles that we've implemented from the 2012 plan since 2012 is 71 miles.
Out of what was the total proposed? I was just curious.
So the total proposed, I will simplify it. So the full 2012 plan included a network that had 848 miles, all encompassing, including existing bikeways. So of the 848, 215 are currently in the ground. So about 25%.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, can you all see my screen? Okay, so I'm just going to give you all a quick demo of the social pinpoint tool that we have. And this is basically used for you all to help answer those questions that Maria just shared with you all. So we're going to be using this in the breakout rooms on the screen, as well as sharing the link with you so you can use this on your own time. And just for reference, most of the information that I'm going to share with you now is also accessible in the About tab. So if you want to revisit this on your own, there are instructions right here to help you out. But basically what we're doing with this tool is you can see all these different points here are different comments and data points we've already collected from the public. The color and the icon is going to represent a different category, so you can let us know areas where you'd like more separation from cars, areas where you don't have access or ability to cross, areas where there is a challenging intersection, where you might want more bike amenities, or where you want to propose an entire bike route. As you know, this is all focused on the unincorporated areas. So that is going to be the only locations where you can drop these pins in addition to the flood channels. So if we zoom in a little closer here, we see that the flood channels are highlighted in this purple color, and then the different unincorporated areas are also highlighted. Just to show you, if I try to drop a pin where in a different location, it's not going to take. So if we zoom in on one of these flood channels here as an example and say there's an area where we can't get through, we can just click and drag our pin, drop it, leave our comment, and then if you'd like, you can leave some additional information here, but the only thing that's required is just that you leave your input for us. So I'll just do a test, and then you'll click add comment, and that is done. As you can see, some other people have already placed comments here, so I can also click to see if I, resonate with this, if I agree or disagree. You can like and dislike, and also reply to someone if you have thoughts to add. And then this bike route pin is going to act a little differently. So instead of just dropping at one point, you're going to be creating a line. So once you click and drag where you'd like to start, you'll just continue to click until your route is complete. And then you can either double click or just click your last dot here, and that will complete your line. Same thing, you'll leave a test comment or leave your comment and then click add comment, and that will be populated on the map. So a pretty straightforward tool that will allow you to leave your comments along with, interacting with other people's. So I think that covers the basics. If you have any additional questions, feel free to ask in the breakout rooms. We can, really get into the details. But yeah, I hope that was helpful.
And the only thing that I would add, Sasha, is that you may not see your points come up right away. and that's important to note. We are capturing that comment. We do want to take a look at it on the back end just to make sure the comments are appropriate. And so you won't see it, but we will add it there. And if we are also doing an opportunity drawing, so if you do want to take part in that, we would need either your phone number or your email. So we'll definitely drop the link in the chat as we head into our breakout rooms. That was a request as well. Fantastic. Next slide. So thank you, everybody. I had the opportunity to check into a couple of the rooms, and we had some great conversations. Heard a lot about connectivity, separation from cars, and other good stuff. So I think what we can do now is really dive a little bit more into what we heard, and perhaps Danielle, if you want to share what some of the thoughts for your room were that you'd like to share with the group.
Sure, thanks, Maria. And thanks for everyone in our room for participating and helping out. So I think the first main point is one that we've been hearing a lot, really folks talking about how there's not enough protection, especially, and a couple of folks mentioned, especially on routes that have a lot of vehicles going fast, routes that have trucks or buses on them is really a higher priority. And then the second one, similarly, is really a lot of folks mentioned key connections. So connections to transit, to schools, access to the river trails, and also connections to bike lanes in other areas that are existing or planned.
Thank you, Danielle. Definitely some good conversations, and we were able to get some points on that map, which is really the goal of today. And let's see, Trevor, do you want to share what your top common themes were?
Yeah, definitely. I think our overarching theme is that there's an opportunity to reimagine the roadways and also implement different typologies of facilities that are best fit for those needs. And also what we heard kind of under that umbrella, there's unused flood control paths that can provide greater connection. There's a great opportunity for utilitarian trips within business and commercial districts that could take wide section roadways down to provide better facility options. There's a great opportunity to connect to multiple modes like transit, trails, also connections that avoid larger vehicle access on roadways and schools, and also the connections from larger capacity roadways into neighborhoods that provide great connection, like intra-neighborhood from the greater Los Angeles County. And then lastly, there's definitely a synergy that can be built with regard to local agencies outside of unincorporated LA County and kind of the connection between those agencies and their plans that are already existing and looking at repaving schedules and that sort of synergy that we can build. So that was kind of our group. We focused a lot on like Altadena and that sort of area.
Thank you, Trevor. Looks like you guys had a very robust conversation there. So definitely the common themes, connections from the other group is a big one. And I think we also heard on your group, Danielle, maintenance is certainly important. And I'm sure, Trevor, that was highlighted or thought of in your room as well. And Roger, I think you also had some comments in your common themes in your room.
Yeah, we did. So my group primarily concentrated on the Altadena as well, but a lot of the common themes that other folks have shared kind of resonated with my group as well. So, you know, the main concern is fast automobiles and no separation on major arterials deter cyclists. There was a mentioning of the network being disconnected between jurisdictions. So that's one of the other concerns where, you know, there's, you know, you'll be on a bike lane and all of a sudden it ends. You know, where do you go from there? So that's one of the concerns. Other themes is wanting better designed streets to accommodate cyclists. And, you know, that's part of what we're here for. You know, we want to hear from you and be able to provide those bike design guides for the county. Other themes were My group was in support of bikeways in designated areas along flood control channels. You know, that could be a major network that can cover a large portion of the county. So folks were in support of that. And the need for amenities at transit stops for cyclists. So, you know, those were some of the key themes, and also connectivity. So a lot of the same themes resonated, it seems like, in all the groups. Maria, back to you.
Thank you. It really is exciting for the team really to get this type of feedback. And the neat thing about what you saw with the map is that they're able to identify it to a geographic location. So we are definitely have more outreach to do. And we're looking forward, like I said, in one of the other groups, to have a lot of pins on that map and get that very specific information for improvements, for ideas. So thank you so much. The link to this map is on the chat, and so you can feel free to continue those inputs there. And I believe we are going to our next steps, Roger. So it is back to you.
All right. Well, you know, where are we going from here, right? So we're in we're in the first phase of our community outreach, and there's going to be events that are related to the plan all through this month. But after this phase, we will be incorporating what we hear into the proposed network and policies. Next phase, Nancy. And then have the next round of outreach related to that portion. So it's an ongoing project. It's a long process, and we'll get there. And just throughout this phase, there's going to be a lot of outreach where we're going to be going out to the community at community events, but also having workshops in your communities. So after this phase, we will begin prioritizing the network and preparing our implementation strategy that will really feed into the programmatic EIR and the creation of the draft plan. So we hope to finalize the plan in winter of 2025, and you know, just to continue the momentum and identifying quick wins for implementation. You know, this is a very important step for the county, and as the plan is being developed, we will work together to begin identifying funding sources to really hit the ground running and begin implementation as soon as we can. So, you know, all the feedback that we're receiving from you all, it's a step towards the creation of the plan.
Thank you, Roger. And this really, we want to touch on how you can stay involved. As you heard from Roger, there's 5 phases of work that are going to be being worked on, and we want to hear from the community on all of those phases of work. Our outreach plan is pretty comprehensive, and there's going to be many opportunities as with this phase, with community events, in-person meetings, virtual workshops, and we are reaching the community digitally as well as in person at those events. So we definitely are looking forward to hear more from you and to engage more with our community partners, community-based organizations that are out there and can also support expanding that reach. So more to come on that outreach and how you can stay involved. And next slide, please. I think what we have a few moments right now, and we had a Q&A session earlier. There was also some discussion during our breakout groups, but we do want to take this time to see if there's any additional questions that you may have that the team can answer and can help respond to. So feel free to, if you want to type it in the chat, feel free to do that. But also if you want to just raise your hand, we are more than happy to call you your name and for you to just ask your question. So let us know if you have a question. And I'm not seeing any at the moment, and I don't see any raised hands, but we'll kind of give it a little bit of time here or in the chat. I don't see anything just yet. That means our teams, our facilitators, and did a fantastic job answering all of your questions, right?
I guess I do have a question.
Go
and
ahead.
I joined about 30 minutes late, so I'm sorry if this was asked before. But in terms of how, this plan gets integrated with the plans of all the other cities that are, make up LA County, I guess how is there like a general strategy of how you do that and how to maybe ensure that there's maybe more cohesion? Like some of the comments that were brought up, right, where communities doing one thing and the other not, and then there's these like disconnects in the bike infrastructure. So how is that usually? I guess what is kind of the strategy and plan for maybe improving that in the future?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, Herod. So I think that definitely once you have various plans, not just for the county, but with other jurisdictions, the making them work together, right, is important. So Sarah, do you want to start addressing that question?
Sure. So for the purposes of this plan, as we look into where we're going to put our ultimate network, we are going to consult any existing neighboring city plans. When it comes to implementation, what we do is we have working relationships with all of the cities in LA County, thankfully. Those are relationships we cultivate over time, and we keep them up for the purposes of implementing those bikeways together wherever possible. So as you can imagine, funding can get complicated. It's something we talked about a little bit earlier in the meeting, but it is beneficial actually from the funding side to be able to partner with others. So it is definitely, I mean, we hear you. It's one of our biggest challenges in LA County to overcome the fact that we are so separated and so spread out, and oftentimes very tiny islands of unincorporated county area. So yeah, we get it. The network really doesn't serve anyone well if it's sporadic, if you're not able to get to the destinations you're trying to get to, whether that be in an unincorporated area or in a neighboring city. So yes, we will absolutely on the planning side be looking at what is already available from our city neighbors, and on the implementation side, for every project that we move forward with, we try to partner as much as possible with our neighbors.
Thank you, Sarah. And it does feel like there is a greater opportunity for this new plan because there is a greater emphasis on safe biking than perhaps with the 2012 plan. So there is a great opportunity there. We also have, can you maybe elaborate a little bit more, Sarah, on what we are doing with coordinating with specifically with MTA, since a lot of the funding can be accessible there as well?
Yes, absolutely. So we do pursue Metro funding wherever possible. As part of this planning effort, they are very intimately involved. They actually serve on our technical advisory committee. So we are coordinating on the planning side as well. That's always at the forefront of our mind, that they have a very robust planning effort that has gone on and continues to go on, and we'll coordinate with them all along the way.
And I will just add that on the outreach side, we're also coordinating with them as well, because they do want to see this cohesive plan as well. So we're definitely excited about that aspect as well. And I believe we have another comment, a general question for biking infrastructure. Let's see. I find when using my bike for daily commuting, etc., that when I come upon red light, need to cross over a street, there does not seem to be a way for me to activate a green symbol other than to pray that vehicles don't hit you. So let's see, are there any plans to improve to implement an easier way for cyclists to simply cross the street?
That's a really great point. And I don't know that we have any of this infrastructure in LA County, but there are bicycle crossing push buttons. That is a thing that exists. And yeah, if you feel that there are specific areas or intersections where this happens often, where maybe you are the only user of that road for a while, or it's not super busy and there aren't a lot of, the cycle timing is not such that you can cross safely, then definitely please point that out on Social Pinpoint. That's something we would want to know. Oh, great, you put in some specifics. So we'll note that. And if that's the type of infrastructure that we need to implement to make it easier, safer to cross the street, then absolutely we want to consider that.
Thank you, Chelsea. Great points and great input.
And just to add one quick point, Maria, as part of this plan, we are also preparing bicycle design guides. So we will be also providing a lot more robust information to the LA County team to identify these opportunity areas to improve on the bike infrastructure. But yes, definitely thank you for your feedback. You're on mute, Maria.
Sorry about that. We also had another comment. Some cities are using video detection, so bicyclists don't have to push a big button. Any thoughts on that type of technology?
Yeah, that's something we look at too, not only for the detection, but it also helps us get bike counts sometimes. So yes, absolutely something in our toolbox that, again, if there are specific areas, it's tough for us to implement countywide, but if there are specific areas that we should prioritize, we want to hear that from you for sure.
Outstanding. So even we're getting close to the end of our presentation, but certainly feel free to continue putting your comments in the chat, and we will make sure that we get those. And as Sarah mentioned, as specific as you can get, that would be great. A comment like video detection is a good example of it may not be able to happen everywhere, but if we identify those specific locations where that could happen, it certainly helps for sure. So we are going to move on to our next slide. Earlier we said we want to make sure that this plan reflects the community needs, and part of that is you being here today. So we thank you for participating. There's definitely other opportunities during this first phase. We have an in-person meeting coming up on Saturday, as well as another virtual meeting on May 16th. We do have a variety of events. We have about 7 or 8 more events that we're going to be at. Feel free to check out the calendar, and we are certainly going to be in all planning areas. We look forward to getting more input there. You have the links here, and we'll drop them in the chat as well for the survey that you just helped us during the breakout session. And as well as the link to our video that you saw earlier. Anything that you can do on your end to help create that synergy, that awareness that really translates into great input for this plan would be greatly appreciated. So those are some ways to continue to get involved. And you can also sign up to receive text. So we will be doing some reminders and giving you opportunities via text at a later phase. So let us know if you'd like to receive those. And right now I want to hand it over to Sarah.
Thanks, everyone. Just wanted to pop on and thank you again for being here. This is a super important part of the process. We really cannot plan without knowing what it is that our communities need. So I would encourage you, as Maria and others have already mentioned, please continue to use the Social Pinpoint. That's our best way to get at exactly what it is you want us to know as we move forward with the planning process. And please stay involved. Reach out to us however, in whichever way it best suits you. We want to hear from you, and yeah, we hope to continue our dialogue and keep chatting with you as we move forward with the plan. So thank you very much. I think Maria, do I need to hand it back to you, or we're ready to adjourn?
We're ready to adjourn. You get 4 minutes of your evening back. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.